my dad, I think, is going to tell us a little bit about a story that he told us last week at Blast Lake, some of us, and that, yeah, I might get emotional talking about it. It was very moving. I'm very proud of my dad and the story, which I hope will share with us tonight. So, Dad.
At the outset, even though I'm retired, I'm still vitally interested in classical light. I own one of the buildings that they use, so I collect rent. That's why. So thank you all of you customers for keeping him solvent all the I hope you'll be interested in this brief report. About a year ago or so, we started to hear from Colonel Mansour, who was here a year ago and is here again tonight, about the idea of a trip to Normandy. Ohio State University, Colonel Mansour is in the history department at Ohio State University, and they did organize it, and some 25 of us went to Normandy about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm looking at Mike Mernan here because Mike and Rhonda were among those who were there. But Colonel Mansour and his department organized this trip took about a week or 8 days, started in London and wound up in Paris. And we got to study, really, Normandy, Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, a lot of it. And Colonel Mansour is indeed an expert on it. And I know for myself, I learned a lot, and it was a marvelous trip. And I'm not going to try and get into that tonight because what I want to tell you a little bit about was the next week when Colonel Mansour and one of his associates, Professor Hahn, and the Hondros and I went to Florence, Italy, and proceeded, and Bob Massey, who's here tonight, was not on the Normandy trip, but we saw him in Paris, and he went with us for part of our trip to Italy. The Italian trip, I know, was conceptualized by Colonel Mansour when he told me that he'd like to take me to Italy and retrace the 10th Mountain Division and what it did, and to an extent what I did as a soldier in Italy in 1945. Well, it was an unbelievable offer that he made, and it's unbelievable to me that we did it and that I was there. And it's a little bit about that I want to tell you. The 10th Mountain Division, of course, I'm very proud that I was in that outfit. It started back when I was a sophomore in college, and the war was on, 1942, and I knew, as everybody in college knew, we were going to have to get into the military one way or the other. And in the front page of the college newspaper where I was, which was Wesleyan in Connecticut, it said something about, if you've ever done skiing, they're organizing the ski troops for the U.S. Army, and to write a letter and to New York City, the National Ski Patrol. Well, I bid on that, as did countless men who were going to colleges in the East. I guess they decided that the Eastern schools were where the skiers were. And so we all got to Colorado at about the same time. And it was awful, the training in Colorado, living out in the mountains. skiing, rock climbing, just mountain warfare. We were the first real outfit that the Army had ever had in mountain warfare. So we trained there for one winter and part of a second winter. And it was a rough life, we thought, but if I hadn't known the F word before and our Eastern schoolboy smoothies, we all learned it out there because it was awful. And every other word was, and guys like Colonel Mansour, they were really the F word guys. And anyhow, we wound up in Italy very late in the war. The war in Italy had gone on Anzio, Cassino, well, Sicily before that. And the 10th Mountain Division arrived really just the last 5 or 6 months of what turned out to be the end of the war. We landed on Christmas Eve, 1944. I believe Christmas Day we were put on a boat and taken up to Livorno, put on trucks, taken into a little mountain village called Catigliano. I mention that because last week Colonel Mansour took us to Catigliano, a little mountain village. I had recollections of being there, of, in fact, living for a week or two in a farmhouse out from the village. The Germans were up on the high ground at that time, but holding tight. And it was a quiet time. There was snow on the ground. We moved into a farmhouse, and I think we moved the farmers to one little corner of the house, and a bunch of us lived in that house. All they had to eat were chestnuts. They had a chestnut tree, and they ate chestnut for pancakes and chestnut for bread, and the chestnuts smelled enough to really, I can't handle the chestnut smell today. Now, jumping forward to last week, we arrived in this little village. I had recalled that I'd had a haircut when I was there. They had a little barber shop, and I went into the village one day and got a shave. I'd never had a barber shave till then. I haven't had many since, but with a straight razor. Now, we arrived there the other day, and we searched for the barber shop. And we walked around, we saw some people, and lo and behold, the Hondros disappeared for a while. John and Linda. Linda was the only woman in our group. And they came back and joined us. They had this little man, old man. His name was Pietro. He didn't speak English, but our driver spoke English. How they found him, we'll never know. But Pietro said that he was the son of the farmers where we lived, and that he knew our outfit. The Germans had lived in the house before we did. He was afraid of the soldiers, so he never appeared. But we wound up, we put him in our van, and we drove up into the mountain and saw the house. There it had been. I'd been 66 years ago in this house. And then he showed us the chestnut tree, still out in the yard. Well, I don't want to put you to sleep by too many other stories. The main mission of the trip, and Colonel Mansour is going to help me at the end of what I say, but it was Hill number 775. And that was where I'd been as a soldier and had been wounded. I didn't believe that we'd ever find that hill, but the colonel had his maps out. He'd done his homework, a lot of homework, to prepare this trip. And we were in a road in the mountains. And the colonel said, "This is where it is." So we got out of our van, and the colonel said, "I think it's that hill up there. I think you said that." And there was a hill up there and a hill on my left, and I didn't really feel, it didn't look familiar to me. But we walked down the road, as I recall, maybe 100 yards or so. And then there was an open field on this side of the road, and I said, "This is it." And so we gathered in a group. John Hondros wanted to put it on in the camera what I said. And I was really nervous, and the whole experience tended to come back to me. And I described it this way, that on that hill, on April 15, 1945, we had been fighting all day coming up to that hill. I was not a lieutenant, I was a staff sergeant, but I was the acting platoon leader, the 2nd platoon of Company G of the 86th Regiment. And we hadn't had an easy day. We had a lot of casualties. We were down to the normal number in a platoon is 40 or 41 soldiers. We were down to, I think, about 20. We stopped to rest. I remember I was incredibly thirsty. I'd been careless with my canteen and had finished all my water. Never been so thirsty. But I was told that Captain Faust wanted to see me. The captain had said at 10 minutes of 4, he would start sending artillery onto that hill. And at 4 o'clock, we were to take off and take the hill. While I was talking with our group the other day, Linda Hondros said, "It's 10 minutes of 4, which just happened to be, but it sobered me even more. And so at 4 o'clock, when we started down the hill, I had a scout in front of me, as I recall, and single file, we came down out into the field, right where we were standing 66 years later, crossed the road, there was a road there then, and started up the hill. And everything was okay until we got about 1/3 of the way up the hill, when coming down on us from the top of the hill was machine gun fire pouring down at us. It hit 1 or 2 of our men, and I'm sure they were fatal hits. The rest of us were on our bellies, and the fire couldn't reach us. We were okay that way. I didn't know how to run a platoon, but I guess I figured it out. There was a gulch over here about not too far from where the kitchen door is that worked its way up the hill, and I remembered it clearly. It was